The world is full of strange unknowns. Oddities abound. Secrets and cover-ups are everywhere. Ghosts, spirits, cryptids, and all creatures of the night are waiting to give you a fright. Fear not. Through light and fire we will expose them to the light. Welcome to the Dragon's Nest. Here is your host, Will Lindsay.
Hey everybody out there in podcast land, welcome to the Dragon's Nest. I'm your host, William Lindsay. And my co-host sitting with me tonight is none other than my favorite person in the world, Karen Lindsay. Say hello.
Hi, everybody.
So we've been doing a lot of research to find some relevant articles about possession. A lot of them are here from 2016, some of them are 2015, but for the most part, they're very relevant articles, and some of them are very surprising. You know, most everybody looks at possession from the movies we've seen, such as The Exorcist and The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and from movies like that, and some of those are very Hollywoodized. But is it real? That's the question. What do you think, Karen? Do you think exorcism is real? Do you believe in evil?
Well, of course there's evil. If you have good, there's always going to be evil. And, I mean, to ask if you believe in it, I would have to say that, of course, there's a lot of things out there being faked. But, I mean, there's so many reports of what's going on. And then you have reports of, you know, these people doing superhuman type things like bouncing off cars and not being hurt, or demolishing things that they couldn't do on a normal basis. And you're thinking, okay, they're strung out on drugs, they're on crack, they're on something. And then, you know, they do a toxicology report and they're on nothing. And they're talking about they're hearing voices, there was one guy there that was in jail asking to be, to get an exorcism. And, you know, why ask for that? That's a horrible thing to go through if you're not really hearing something. Now, yeah, maybe it's just a psychological problem, but why are there so many cases out there? And
I know it seemed, you were talking about the guy bouncing off the car. There was case after case after case reported in major news organizations around the country and around the world about people who are naked and just running through the streets, attacking people, jumping out of windows and buildings, jumping through glass panes, attacking
like it's
people
nothing.
bloody.
Yeah.
When the cops confront them, the cops are having trouble, like, taking them down. They're taking 4 and 5 police officers to bring them to the ground and actually get an arrest. And, you know, they're getting this blood all over the police officers, all over the floor, all over the thing from all the craziness that they've been doing. And they take them in, like you were saying, and they're not on drugs. They're not drunk.
Yeah, their toxicology reports are coming back completely negative. And here you've got this guy. I mean, you can talk all you want about being, you know, having adrenaline rushes or whatever, but you've got these cops taking them down with being tased and pepper sprayed, and 4 cops having to, you know, drag this one scrawny guy.
Yeah, we're not talking about a 450 pound man or a bodybuilder.
I mean, the guy looks like he's 150 pounds maybe, and he's naked, he's bloody, and, you know, he just looks like he could fall over with a breeze. And here's taking 4 cops to drag him to the ground. You know, that has to say something. There's something there.
And the strangeness is these naked attacks, as I'm going to call them.
Yeah, a lot of them.
They were in like such a short period of time, like less than 6 months. There was probably 1 to 2 a month for a 6-month period in different spots of this country and around the world. More in this country is more of what I looked at, but the one with the crazy guy jumping through the glass pane was in the Czech Republic. And there was actual video, which is on the Dragon's Nest Facebook page, if you want to check it out, of the dashboard cam and then a personal cam that was on the officer who was trying to take the guy down. And you can actually see blood on the cruiser from where the guy had blood all over him, probably from crashing into windows and crashing out of windows. And they were wrestling him down. It's hard to see in that video, but the cops are truly fighting to get this guy down.
And the whole time I'm watching these videos, I'm waiting. I'm waiting to hear this guy's on bath salts or coked out of his head. Something is going on that's giving him this superhuman strength. And time after time after time, it's coming back with, negative toxicology reports. I know I keep saying that, but going back to what you said in the very beginning, I know it's been sent through Hollywood so many times, and it's probably been doctored so many times. But going back to the stories of like The Exorcist and stories of like Amityville Horror, there's truth behind those movies, and it's stuff that can't really be, ignored, where Ronnie DeFeo, and if you're not familiar with the story, Ronnie DeFeo was the son that ended up murdering his whole family in the Amityville house. Now that's true. That's a true part of the whole story. Whatever happened after that,
With the Lutzes.
Yeah, you never know what happened with that, whether it was real or faked. According to the little boy, or that's now a man, he's done interview after interview talking about how, all of it was truly happening.
And what the family felt.
Yeah, and then you have Lorraine Warren, who I personally love her, but...
which The Conjuring, The Conjuring 2, and it's all based on. And, speaking of that, we just saw something about an India man who went to see The Conjuring 2.
Exactly.
He had a heart attack, which, okay, he was an older gentleman, had a heart attack during the film.
Yeah, but then his body...
Paramedics who took him
body
to the hospital was pronounced dead at the hospital. And then on the way to the morgue, the person who was transporting him disappears, and the body is nowhere to be found, and they're still searching for it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of strange. Now, that's probably just coincidental. I'm sure, there's probably something coincidental about that.
Maybe it's the mob or
but at the same
like
time,
that.
It's just strange.
It's definitely strange. But getting back to my original point with Ronnie, he talked about hearing voices, and to walk through your entire house and take a shotgun. And first of all, he takes a shotgun. It's not, a gun with silencer. It's not something, this is a shotgun. If anybody's been around a shotgun, you can't sleep through a shotgun going off in your house. Everyone stayed asleep in the house. And he went room to room to room, shooting each person one by one, saying the voices in his head were telling him that they were demons and that they had to be destroyed.
So why do you think that they stayed asleep through a shotgun blast?
And that's a good question. I mean, they
You think
said
there
it was
supernatural silence.
They said that it was storming that night. Maybe the thunder, maybe they got so used to the thunder going off that they didn't hear the shotgun. But I mean, the difference between hearing thunder outside your window and a shotgun going off inside the house, I mean, that's a pretty...
I would say the concussive blast would be
that's a pretty big difference. And
but I don't know, I've heard some pretty powerful lightning. Yeah. Some thunder, rather.
That's true, too.
Speaking of The Exorcist, and, kind of jumping back off of the Amityville and the DeFeo, The Exorcist, that's also based on a true story.
Yep.
However, they changed it. It wasn't a girl. It was
a little boy, right?
But it was truly based on a true story. And, of course, they Hollywoodized the whole thing. So, Linda Blair and all the stuff that happened and what she had, turning green. And, some of that stuff didn't happen as it was portrayed. But the overall fright of a parent and their child being possessed. And
I can imagine.
And the exorcism was true. And
yeah. But they talked about how this boy was, he could speak languages that he'd never been around. And I think he was 8 years old. I might be wrong on that, but I think he was like 8 years old, and he was speaking languages that he'd never been around, and doing crazy things with his, contorting his body around, right, and different things like that, probably should have killed him. Now, the whole thing with his head, I don't think the head turning completely around or anything like that ever happened. But,
well, William Friedkin, who was the director of The Exorcist, he's 80 years old now, and apparently he was invited to witness a real exorcism by the Catholic Church. Now, however, apparently he filmed that exorcism, and the Catholic Church has since come out and said he did not have permission to do that.
Ooh.
But what
don't want to mess with the Catholics.
No, not at all. But William Friedkin did say that, and I quote, "I don't think I will ever be the same having seen this astonishing thing. I am not talking about some cult. I am talking about an exorcism by the Catholic Church in Rome." So he said that he was forever changed after witnessing a real one. You know, and at that point, all he had done was directed the one from 1973, the movie. And so this was something that he had tried to direct and tried to make up in his head and from what he had probably researched at that time. But until just recently, he had never actually ever seen a true-to-life exorcism.
I don't know how I personally would handle, if the exorcisms are like what they are when you see them, throughout the movies and, the things like people bouncing off the walls or people, walking up the walls backwards and stuff. I'm not sure how I would handle it or whether I would be the same after that. That would be pretty freaky.
Well, Friedkin is not Catholic, but he says he believes in Jesus' teaching. And he also believes in the validity of exorcism. So, I mean, that says something. I mean,
So getting on that point, though, I'm just kind of curious. Do the Catholics have the book on exorcism?
Exorcism.
Is it a Catholic only thing?
No, exorcism has been around and is practiced by multiple religions. Shamans have exorcised people, priests. Obviously, in the Catholic Church, they have a whole school of it. In fact, Pope Francis recently, as recently as in the last few years, has increased the amount of priests that he would like in the exorcism. He feels as though the world is really becoming evil and that the amount of exorcists is growing. The need for exorcists is growing in order to exorcise.
I was just kind of curious if it's something along the lines of, I guess you never really hear about a Muslim getting possessed and having to go through an exorcism. I mean, does Allah not... I know that probably sounds really bad, and I'm not really trying to make fun of it at all. It's just, it's very weird that we want to put it on certain religions when you don't hear about it in other religions.
I think it's not...
Or maybe it's not brought to light, or...
Because, we're kind of oblivious to certain things here.
And that's probably true, too.
And so I would say that probably if you were in the Muslim faith, you probably would have such traditions as some exorcism or some sort of way to get rid of an evil spirit. I mean, they are based on the Judeo-Christian religion, essentially.
That's true. It's just some religions you never hear about them going through this
Jewish
kind of thing.
Faith has a certain form of exorcism, and Jewish people have an exorcism. It's not Christ, obviously, because they don't believe that Christ was their savior, but they still have a form of exorcism that they perform on people who they believe are possessed.
Now, I do want to put a shout out real quick. Since we're talking about exorcism, Samantha, my niece, is going to be on the show within a week or two, I think. And she is a ghost hunter. She has a group of people that they go out and they ghost hunt a lot. And they have certain practices and rituals that they try to do before they go ghost hunting. And prayers and, little type things that they do. But anyway, I wanted to throw a shout out because she did send me a couple of texts tonight. Sadly, she couldn't be on the show tonight, but she did send me a couple of texts that I wanted to, put out there. So exorcism, we look at exorcism a lot like just possession of the body. So my belief is that whenever a spirit attaches itself to anything, you're not looking at there probably wouldn't be an exorcism, but it's definitely possession. In her case, there was a type thing where they investigated a home. It was very dark. It felt very dark, very kind of demonic feeling while she was there. Her boyfriend ended up taking a book from the house, bringing it home. And that night, or actually she said for a couple nights, she kept smelling things were burning in the house. And it smelled like a sewer smell through the house. She got rid of the book and the smells went away. I mean, very, very creepy type stuff there.
Did you say that, didn't she say there was also some nightmares and dreams that were associated?
Oh, yeah. There was another story she told me about them going to a graveyard, and they were told that this was apparently where witches were buried. Now, whether that's true or not, no one really knows. It's what they were told, so they wanted to go investigate it. So they all went out, they investigated a lot of...
Of course, we all know that witches are evil.
Of course,
right?
They're all evil.
And that being said, let me qualify that with I do not believe that witches are evil.
Yes, definitely. We know some very, very good witches. But anyway, supposedly they went to this ground where I guess witches were buried, and obviously they were also, I guess, a place where they had rituals, things like that. That night, Samantha goes home and has nightmares about these women being around her and staring at her. She said it was complete darkness. She could only see faces. The next day, she calls one of her friends that's in the group, and before she could even get it out, her friend starts telling her about the freaky dream she had. As of exact same dream. How does,
That is really weird. At least it wasn't naked people attacking her.
At least it wasn't naked people. At least they didn't get naked and start attacking people.
And witches like to be naked, too.
Of course.
Right? The sky-clad principle.
Of course.
But, coming back to the Catholic Church, the Catechism of the Catholic Church emphasizes the importance of distinguishing between demonic activity and mental illness. Mm-hmm. From paragraph 1673 in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, it says, "Exorcism is directed at the expulsion of demons or to the liberation from demonic possession through the spiritual authority which Jesus entrusted to his church." They're basically saying that illness, especially psychological illness, is a very different matter from possession. Treating mental illness is a concern for science. So how are they discerning between mental illness and someone who's possessed? There's, they say with certain prayers and the way people react is kind of how they make a determination if it's mental illness or if it's not mental illness. But if it is mental illness, they definitely try to get those people to the correct treatment facility so that they can actually get the treatment that they need, and they just don't treat every mental illness as a possession that needs to happen. However, there's been some horrifying stories of people who treated kids. There was one specific one I'm trying to remember, and I'll remember in a second, where somebody told a mom, mm-hmm. and this is somewhere in the United States, told a mom that her autistic child was possessed. And it wasn't a Catholic priest, so let's get that out before we go any further. It was just a minister of some sort from another faith.
Well,
who practiced exorcisms.
With that being said, though, real quick, way back in 1860s or something along that line, if you were born with a mental handicap, then they pretty much thought you were possessed by the devil then, and, you had to be drowned or burned. At
some point in time, if all I did was come up and no longer wanted to be around you anymore, I could just tell somebody that I saw you practicing in the graveyard at midnight under the full moon, and suddenly
very, very true.
You're being dunked in the water. But luckily, we've come a long way since then. At least I'd like to think we have.
I don't know. I would say in certain parts of the country, we probably haven't come that far yet. But
in this situation, this minister, which this woman had formed a bond with, because she obviously was part of his congregation. You know, he approached her, she didn't approach him, and said that her son was possessed and that he could help rid her son of his autistic nature. And
so sad.
The son ended up dying from the things that he was actually beating the child and smacking the child, trying to wing things. And I mean, the mom, at which point in time do you look at your lady and go, there's something wrong? You know, you want to think that we know everything, but when it comes to religion, people are very tolerant. You know, they believe in their ministers and they believe in their priests, and they want to believe that they would never do any harm to them. But I mean, we've seen that that's not necessarily always the case. And even the Catholic priest would tell you, first of all, that we're all human and that we all have sin. And so just because I'm a priest, doesn't mean I'm never going to sin. So that's why they have confession, and priests are to go to confession as well as the normal man. But you want to believe that your laity is somehow above reproach. And in this situation, you know, the mom allowed it to go on too long, and her son died.
And sadly, I think that has to do with a lot of, you know, I've heard it one too many times of let go and let God handle it. You know, right. And
now, your mama said that
many times. And
hey, if your mom had her way every time we had a problem, you know, we would just
we just let go and let God handle it. It'll be fine. God will take care of the bills. God will take care of everything else.
Don't meet him halfway.
Exactly. You know, let him go to work for you. You can stay home. But I think some people put their faith in, I mean, and I'm not saying don't have faith. I'm not saying that at all. I have faith. I believe in a higher power. It's just, I don't want to pray over my child when they're bleeding rather than take them to the hospital. And a lot of parents are, you know, especially the very, very overly, you know, religious parents who let go and let God handle it. And I think this is kind of the same deal of, you know, here you have a child with autism. They're not like other kids. They're, you know, they're special. And if you've ever been around an autistic child and stuff, they're beautiful, they're wonderful, and they're in their own world. It's not a world that you're really in with them. They like to share certain things with you, but for the most part, they're in their own world. And if you're not educated on it, you're not, you know, you don't read up on autism. You are not around a lot of autistic children. Not even
necessarily autism, but
any
mental illness.
Exactly.
You know, bipolarism or mental depression.
I have seen a lot of women with bipolar disorder that probably could have been mistaken as as a possession. Where one minute they're very, very happy,
I need a young priest and an old priest.
Next minute they're throwing the laundry basket across the room, but. You know, it's things like that where I think that's where it's coming down to of where does exorcism come in? When does it become a thing? And
well, the problem, I think, what I'm trying to get at too with this is that, you know, the Catholic Church, and I'm not saying that they own the right to this by any means, because obviously religions of all faiths and of all kinds have been doing exorcisms forever. I mean, if you're Wiccan and you perform a banishing spell before you begin your circle rites. You're banishing evil and negativity out of your circle. So, I mean, that's a form of exorcism or banishment. Mm-hmm. That's what exorcism typically is, except for you're saying you're exorcising demons versus, you know, spirits, or it could be spirits, I guess. But, you know, Catholics have been doing it for hundreds and hundreds of years, and they've come up with protections and guidelines and things that keep people from getting harmed, and they'll have doctors on staff or there while they're doing the exorcism. It's kind of like a communal thing. They don't just go in by themselves and try to perform these things. They actually have someone monitoring the vitals. They're not slapping people.
Right.
You know, they're not hitting people or punching them or trying to like drive the demon out with force, punching them in the stomach. Like I have read and heard that some faiths are doing, or these sham ministers who run around saying they can exorcise people. So, you know, be careful out there. If you feel like you're possessed, or if you feel like your family member might have some sort of influence by an evil person, you know, make sure who you're going to before you go to them. There are so many people out there, you know, there's so many ghost societies and paranormal societies out there, and some claim that, you know, they can do demonic exorcisms or house cleansings. You need to make sure who you're dealing with. Find reputable sources.
Fully agree. And I mean, don't automatically think you're possessed or don't automatically,
Right.
I think too many people will either go one way or the other, and they go really fast at it. I'm possessed and I know I'm possessed, and they're bipolar.
Exactly.
It's some mental illness that an easy, a pill or maybe some psychiatric help
Therapy,
or
counseling,
something.
yes.
Exactly.
One thing I found interesting too, since we're talking about this topic, and is that apparently Idaho is experiencing a population boom. I guess there's some infrastructure that's becoming advantageous for people to live there, and so people are moving to Idaho. But as they're moving there, the exorcisms
are going up,
are increasing, and people are going there and performing exorcisms. And interestingly enough, Idaho apparently has faith healing laws that protect the faith and parents in a neglect case. So, for example, the guy who was punching, I guess, the kid to try to get the demon out, from the autistic demon out. And, maybe during a court, they would find that what he did was wrong. But from my understanding, it protects them from doing stuff like that. So, I mean, the mom wouldn't be held liable either.
Is this a church and state kind of thing? I mean, is this I put my faith into my church so we can beat my child up as much as we want to because we think an evil demon is inside of him? I mean, is this what we're dealing?
What's the extent of that law? That's the thing.
Is that what we're dealing with?
Obviously, I don't have enough research. So if you're listening from Idaho, and I'm telling this law wrong, please, email me, let me know what the true extent of it is. But from what I've read, if something bad happens during, say, an exorcism, then the mom and the priest or the mom, priest or minister, whoever,
right,
shaman, they're protected, regardless of what they did. Now, obviously, I mean, I would assume that if they were doing something like using knives or cutting, or I would think that maybe if you're beating somebody that.
But what's the difference between taking a knife or your fist? I mean,
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't.
Especially when you're dealing with a child.
I would like to think that law wouldn't protect that. Like, if you're going in and you're praying over a person and trying to exorcise them, and you're throwing water on them or something like that. Hopefully, yes, if something bad would happen there, maybe you'd be protected. But if it's like physical abuse, I would hope that that law wouldn't protect them. And maybe it doesn't, but that law is on the books.
My understanding, now I didn't research this, it's just my understanding, is that priests or whoever they're supposed to go through a certain a certain amount of steps.
Well, the Catholics actually have a formal class in Rome that all exorcists who are going to be exorcists have to go to and get trained.
Well, that's a good thing, but what are they training them? I mean...
Well, they're actually showing them case files. My understanding is they show them case files. They show them pictures that they've documented and teach them how and what to do, how to discern the difference between mental illness and a true exorcism, and go through what they should expect so that they have an understanding of what they might see in an exorcism or what they might experience.
Now, I did watch a file on YouTube. I believe it was called Real Exorcisms. I can't remember. I apologize, but it's on YouTube, and I know it started with Real Exorcisms something. But it had different cases. Supposedly, it was what they show. It was a portion of what they show priests when they go for their training. And it's part of things that have been documented. And it was some of the creepiest stuff that I had watched. My understanding, like I was saying, is that there has to be a set of rules. Like we were talking about with the little boy that was based off The Exorcist. He was speaking languages that he'd never been around. That he was, morphing his body into ways that he shouldn't be able to.
Well, the Catholic Church does have tenets. Like, they have to, that would be one of the tenets. Like, they'd probably have to exhibit 2 to 3 of the different tenets of exorcism in order for them to actually, because they have to approve it. It has to go through the archbishop and be approved before that Catholic priest can actually go and take part in an exorcism. So he can come and basically he's an investigator. He'll come out to your home and he'll listen to you. He'll listen and he'll take back information that he's gotten from you, or visual information, auditory information, say they're speaking in languages. He has to take all that back to the bishop, and then they
get approval.
They have to counsel on whether they believe it's an exorcism or if it's someone faking it, if it's mental illness, and then they have to decide what to do from there. So, interestingly enough, the society or the institute rather, is the Rome's Regina Apostolorum University. They specifically they recently had a class in April of last year, 2015, that was training priests and lay people in spotting the difference between psychological problems and demonic possession. And the conference included interventions from a wide range of experts in the field of exorcism, including practicing exorcists, medical professionals, psychologists, lawyers, and theologians. And Father DeMeo emphasized that not all cases of possession are going to look the same, which is why it is important for exorcists to go through rigorous training. Answering your question. He thinks that you shouldn't just be out there, you and me, lay people.
Right.
We think somebody needs an exorcism. We've seen a few television shows. Let's get our rosary
we're gonna get our crosses and holy water
and some holy water, and let's go see what we can do for this person. We're just going to make it worse. The other thing that I found is that, according to some of these priests that teach these classes, we watch it on television and they exorcise them, and 5 minutes later the demon's out. They get the name and the demon's out. But apparently some exorcisms can last 14, 17 years more.
So it just depends whether the demon's camera shy.
Exactly. The demons on camera, they just want to get out of there, basically. But no, seriously, they say that a person, as they're working through it, obviously, hopefully that you're pushing that demon out, but he's constantly trying to get back. And so it takes a lot of time to finally build up enough, I guess, for the person to have enough will to stop that creature from invading their life. So it could be years before they're actually completely cleansed.
Now, before we get off on too much of a tangent here, I do want to bring up the case of the woman, and I forget her name, but...
Are you talking about the lady from Indiana?
I think so. And she was going through an exorcism... And she was on the, they were on the O'Reilly show. A priest was on the
O'Reilly show.
And he was saying that he truly believed. Now, when I'm first watching the videos and I'm hearing all of this and they're talking about, I see the mother talking, I'm thinking all kinds of horrible stuff about this whole case.
Everybody was thinking the horrible stuff about the case. The caseworker... And, they were coming in and checking out because the kids were...
I'm thinking the mom's crazy, that she's telling the kids, hey, we're going to have our own reality show. I'm thinking this is probably what's happening behind the scenes. But what got me was the police officer
it was the nurse and the social worker.
Child Protective Services
of Indiana.
Saw the kid. Now, both of these guys saw the kid walk
first they said the grandmother was holding the kid's hand.
Yeah, was holding the kid's hand.
And then had a creepy smile.
He had a creepy smile. Right. And then started going up the wall backwards.
Walked up the wall backwards, according to the caseworker and the nurse. The caseworker actually documented it in her case log. And of course the reporter who wrote it in the Indianapolis Star, because that's where it was originally reported at, she interviewed the nurse and said that he too said he confirmed that he visually saw this take place. And apparently he walked up the wall,
walked a wall, flipped
onto his feet,
and then sat down in the chair, looked up to them, and gave them a creepy smile. Yeah. Now, who wouldn't want to get out of that house so fast? Exactly. I mean, that gives me chills just thinking about this kid.
The kids have been removed from the home.
Right.
And apparently the mom was supposedly found to be possessed. And
right.
My understanding is she's had 4 exorcisms at this point, and the kids, I don't believe, have been returned to her.
And also, if you go to
police officers, as you were saying,
right, and if you go to the, we have it on the Facebook site, right?
Yes, the Dragon's Nest
Fox News Insider, and it's got Bill O'Reilly right on the front.
Bill O'Reilly will be talking to the priest, but to make sense of it, if you scroll down the page and click on the Kelly file, you can actually hear and see the interview with the actual reporter from the Indianapolis Star who reported on the story originally. And she's very fair and balanced, and she's very adamant in the interview that she doesn't want to take an opinion one way or the other on it. Even though, Kelly is trying to get her to take an opinion.
Right, exactly. But one thing, I really want to push you guys to go out there and watch this, because there's one part where they're going through the house. They're showing you the house. All the windows.
Are you talking about the outside of the house?
Well, they show the inside of the house first, and what got me was all of it had blinds. Like, all the windows had blinds. And then you go to the outside of the house where they're showing the pictures, and there is a silhouette of something standing there looking out. And it's one of the creepiest pictures I think I've ever seen.
Well, the police officers who investigated said that dirt, and I think their quote was, that dirt is the portal to hell.
Right, exactly. And, you've got police officers saying that, that there's some serious creepy stuff happening.
You've got a caseworker for the state of Indiana.
Right.
You've got several police officers who swear to what they've seen. You have these reputable sources. Mm-hmm. Swearing to seeing strange and weird things inside the house as well as outside the house. And, of course, the mom obviously has either mental illness or she is truly possessed. She has had 4 exorcisms by the Catholic priest. Mm-hmm. So, it's very sad for the kids. I feel bad for them. Maybe their reactions, maybe they weren't possessed themselves. Maybe their reactions were based on the moms.
I don't know. There had to be something going on there when you're talking about a grandmother holding on to the kid's hand, and then suddenly he just decides. We're not
talking about running up the wall. We're talking about, they said he walked.
He walked up the wall.
Not a running like a parkour thing where you run and you flip off a wall.
Exactly. That he just walked up the wall backwards.
Right.
And then flipped over.
On his feet.
Onto his feet and sat down and then just smiled at them creepily, or whatever the word is.
Creepily is their opinion, we're not there, but I can imagine a child's creepy smile.
Yeah, and not just, no. I don't think I want to see that out of my kids anytime soon.
Well, how about a lighter possession story then?
Yeah, so how lighter possession story?
There's some really bad ones too. Let's do the other bad ones. We'll get the bad ones out of the way.
We'll get the bad ones out of the way. The bad stuff first. There was a
Korean family who basically ended up murdering their daughter in a hotel, trying to exorcise them. That happened recently as well. I think that's also on our Facebook page. And so there's all these things about people who are doing exorcisms incorrectly or to a really horrible extent. So I guess the point to make and close out on those is, again, make sure that if you believe someone needs an exorcism, if you believe that someone close to you needs an exorcism, and you start to look for these people to find someone to help you.
Right, definitely.
Turn to some sort of reputable source that you can think of. I know, I listen to Darkness Radio, and I believe that on their website, darknessradio.com, they have lists of some of the people who come on their show. And Darkness Dave, I believe, he does some stuff with the Ghost Adventurers, and so they have a list of people who are credible. And if you don't know, you can even email Darkness Dave, and he'll give you people. He knows people all over the country because they travel all over the country, but. It's a great radio program. If you've never listened to it, darknessradio.com. You can listen to it on Stitcher and also on iHeartRadio. And check your local listings. It comes on. Usually it comes on before Coast to Coast comes on, so you don't have to sacrifice Coast to Coast radio if you listen to that. But I listen to it on the podcast because I can listen to it anytime I want. But
absolutely great show.
He always is saying that, come to my website, send me an email, we'll get you reputable people, because you don't want to get hurt. You don't want your child, your mom, your brother, your cousin, your friend to end up in some horrible situation that has taken place all over the world. Not just here in the States, all over the world. There was an Australian story about somebody getting hurt while getting exercise.
Yeah, don't try to go out and exercise somebody on your own.
Yeah, don't take actions into your own hand. So number one, if you're performing an exorcism and you have no idea what you're doing and you have any belief system whatsoever, you're opening yourself up to an exorcist possession, I suppose. Right. Not an exorcist, but to a possession, an attack, an attachment.
Right.
Something that's going to follow you home at night. I asked at the beginning of the show, do you believe in evil and good and evil? And I never asked myself that, or you didn't ask me back, but I do believe in evil. I mean, you see it every day in the world, and you see these things that take place, and sometimes you want to believe that people have a conscience. But there are some people who really don't have a conscience, and there is evil that is human evil, and that human evil, they don't have a conscience. They don't have guilt.
Right.
And they do things because it makes them feel good, and that's a human evil. And then there's the evil of possession, where you take an average person who on an everyday basis is actually a pretty decent person, and over time they're psychologically, or not psychologically, but spiritually attacked over a long term, and as they weaken, their will weakens. That's how these entities take over, and it can be little things at first, like you lose your keys a few times, and the next thing you know, you're isolated. They isolate you somehow, and they start scaring you through isolation. And
it was really weird because just watching some of these videos, I mean, you see, like I said before, you're dealing with. These people are not on drugs. These people are not out getting drunk. These people are not, they're just, all of a sudden, they're out there doing these crazy things. And you have to wonder, is this just crazy? Or is there
something to it?
Exactly.
Well, okay, so now to the funny side of this.
All right,
so let's tell a funny. So maybe it's not funny to this. Okay, let me preface it's funny.
It's funny to us because we have dark sense of humor.
But this man did kill 6 people, so in that aspect of it, it's not funny. But a Michigan Uber driver.
Sorry.
No.
The bad part about this is I almost applied for Uber. I might have been a possession statistic.
You never know.
You never know.
But this Uber driver from Michigan, he killed 6 people. But
oh, gosh.
When they caught him, he said that the Uber app was possessed by the devil, and that he actually saw the devil in the app when he would use it, and the devil would tell him to do things.
Well, maybe Uber needs to look into their app.
I definitely think they have a bug. I mean, maybe they need to check their coders or something.
There's got to be something there, but this one seems a little more, and to me, it seems a little more on the crazy side.
I think it's a little more on the crazy side as well. If somebody trying to get out of something,
right.
He's probably trying to claim insanity and maybe spend time in an insane asylum versus having to go to prison and deal with that.
Because he's talking about how he's accepting, if you know anything about Uber is a kind of like a taxi service where you can, I almost signed up to be an Uber driver at one time, and you go through this rigorous, you have to have your car checked. You have to have a background check. I mean, they go through all these channels to make sure these drivers are as safe as possible. So then you, as a passenger, let's say you're out on the night, you had, too much to drink, whatever, you can just get on the app for Uber, tell them the address where you're at, put your credit card in, Uber comes around, picks you up, takes you home. It's supposed to be a very safe and wonderful service. So this guy, who was an Uber driver, was saying that he was accepting, he was going through and being picky about who he was accepting. But then all of a sudden he would see satanic things come up on his phone from the app. And, he was seeing the actual Uber emblem, or the, whatever it's called, the icon.
He said he saw the Eastern Star.
Yeah, the Eastern Star, which
I'm assuming is the pentagram.
Which was
upside down.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, and then he saw, what was he say? He saw the devil as a cow head with horns. Yes. So isn't that a bull?
Well, I can tell you that it is bull.
It is bull, definitely, but
it's a family program. Maybe not. I'm not sure.
But I think this one is a little on the crazy side rather than the the possession side, personally.
I think if he picked the people up while naked.
He should have been naked. That was naked, the difference.
It would have been believable.
Exactly.
So according to the Catholic News Agency, and in Mexico City, Mexico, on March 9th of this year, 2016, there was a murder of a 24-year-old man in Chihuahua, Mexico. And it was possibly related to satanic ritual. So, and the best part was not the best part, I shouldn't say that, but they were saying the ritual was designed to transform the victim into a vampire.
Oh, I always wanted to be a vampire. I think I'd make a good vampire. The whole living for everything, I think that would be pretty cool.
Well, the report from the Chihuahua State Attorney General says that the 4 people accused of the murder, 3 men and a woman, ages 18 to 25, they profess Satanism, and they performed inside the Cyber Cafe an initiation rite in which they decided to have as their victim their friend, Edwin Miguel Juarez Palma.
I like how it says, decided to have their victim, their friend, Edwin Miguel.
Well, these are great friends.
These are great friends. They have
that's what I've always wanted my friends to do.
Just to have you as their victim.
And according to the...
Sorry, guys, and I apologize if we're offending anyone out there. It's a dark sense of humor, and sometimes you have to laugh at this kind of stuff because it's just so crazy.
Well, according to that same Attorney General, the 4 defendants took the young man by deception. They bound his hands and lied to him, telling him that he would be initiated into the sect called Sons of Baphomet 1.
Oh.
Must be 2, 3, 4? But they're the first,
They're the first.
Well, I guess that's good that you're the first. Unaware, though, he himself would be the sacrifice. And they beat him and wounded him with a glass bottle, and eventually he did die from his wounds. But
so I guess he didn't turn into a vampire.
No, he didn't turn into a vampire. Apparently he's dead.
Oh, well, that's...
I had no reports of the body missing.
Unless
this should have been the Indian man. The Indian man may be a vampire.
It might be. You never know.
But apparently this is a fad in Mexico, and this vampirism is something that has been happening, not necessarily being killed, but there's some sort of thing about vampirism there. And so the reason I'm bringing this up for the possession and exorcism is because a Catholic church, Father Fortier was his name, stresses that the relationship between society steeped in violence and the growth of Satanism, and that vampirism totally amounts to devil worship. And so what he has done, as he got permission, in May of 2015, he coordinated a major exorcism of the entire country of Mexico as a country. And I guess,
my gosh.
And I guess this isn't necessarily individual exorcisms, but more of like a protection for the land itself, maybe a blessing of the land, exorcising that which isn't already attached, kind of like the object we talked about with Samantha in her book.
Right.
There was an attachment to it, so perhaps it's like some sort of mystical force field that prevents more from coming in. But I would assume that, and I guess he does say here that the exorcism which took place in the Archdiocese of San Luis Potosi in Mexico puts up a barrier to demonic action. But unfortunately, that exorcism doesn't serve to prevent someone who's already morally degraded from approaching the devil asking for things. So I guess regardless, you can still go to the crossroads and see if Crowley's available to
Oh no.
make a pact.
Oh no, a supernatural reference. Shout out to all our supernatural friends out there. We miss Dean and Sam already. But this is nuts. Come on, Mexico, get it together. You guys are supposed to be up and coming, and we love you guys. Stay strong. But this is crazy.
Maybe it'll work, Maybe it'll keep things out for them. Maybe it was a good thing. It'd be interesting to see. Maybe we need an exorcism in the United States.
Oh, Lord. Talk about that would take a while. That would take a very long time.
I think Donald Trump's hair would just fly off. I'm pretty sure that his hair's evil.
I think it's a thing of the devil.
It's either evil or it's a tribble. Or tribble.
A tribble.
A tribble.
Now we're doing Star Trek references. Great. So, yeah. What else we got?
Well, interesting, still on the biblical side of possession, there's a quote from Ephesians 6:12. It says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places."
Ooh, creepy.
So, that being said, do you believe in evil? Do you believe in spiritual evil? Maybe I should preface that. Because we asked evil in general before, and obviously there's evil, but what about spiritual evil? Are you afraid for your soul and what might attach to it?
I've said it before. I have friends who are atheists. I have friends who are very devout Christian belief, and whatever you believe, it's scientifically proven that when you die, there's an energy that is released. And it's also scientifically proven that energy never ceases. So whatever you claim that to be, whether it be a soul or whether it's you passing on or whether it's just energy from your brain, whatever it may be, I think that we all have to deal day to day with good, with evil, with indifference, and just try to make it through.
I agree. Evil's out there. I do believe in spiritual evil. I do believe in real evil. All you got to do is turn on CNN for 2 seconds, and spiritual evil is going to present itself to you fully.
Oh, most definitely.
Or not spiritual evil, but just human evil.
Human evil. Do I think someone like Jeffrey Dahmer was possessed? I think he was just evil. I
think he liked to eat young man's butts.
Ugh. Anyway, Charlie Manson, he's still sitting in prison and stuff. And do I think he's possessed by the devil? And I think he even said he was the devil himself.
He believed he was the devil himself, but I believe that man is just of the insane variety. Like, he is truly mentally ill. Like, I don't believe he's possessed by the devil. Now, has he ever been touched by some evil? I would think
probably, yeah.
But I believe most of what he did because he found enjoyment in it and not because he was told to do it.
Right, definitely.
That's all the time we have for this episode. As always, we thank you for listening to The Dragon's Nest. Please follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dragon's Nest PC. That's Dragons with an S, Nest PC for podcast. We are on YouTube, so please like, subscribe, and hit that bell. You can listen and follow us on your favorite podcast platforms such as Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google, iTunes, and at our host site, SoundCloud. To search for us, just search The Dragon's Nest. That's the THE, Dragons with an S, Nest. If you would like to share a story with us or have ideas you'd like to hear in a future show, please send an email to thedragonsnest@outlook.com or call and leave us your story at 513-549-3049. Again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time
inside the Dragon's Nest.